The grand chamber of the Galactic Congress stretched so wide that its far walls disappeared into a blue haze. Hundreds of different species filled the floating platforms that circled the central speaking floor. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others existed in sealed environmental bubbles filled with methane, liquid nitrogen, or stranger things. The air hummed with translation fields, turning thousands of alien voices into a single comprehensible roar. Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim stood on the human platform, his hands clasped behind his back. His dark suit looked plain compared to the elaborate robes and biological displays of other diplomats. Beside him, Dr. Minji Park gripped the railing with white knuckles. She was younger than the ambassador, still idealistic enough to hope the vote might go differently than everyone expected. Chancellor Vorgith floated at the center of the chamber. The ancient crystalline being refracted light through its body, creating rainbow patterns on the walls. Its voice resonated through the translation system with cold precision. "We gather today to vote on Resolution 847G, Vorgith announced. The question of humanity's continued participation in galactic society. Minji leaned close to Hyun-Woo. "There's still time. Maybe some of them will listen." Hyun-Woo said nothing. He had been watching the other delegates carefully. He saw how they avoided looking at the human platform. He noticed the satisfied expressions on certain faces. The vote was already decided. This was just theater. High Commander Ralph rose from the Kryn platform. The massive reptilian warrior's scales gleamed under the chamber lights. His species had pushed hardest for this resolution. "Humanity is a threat," Ralph declared, his voice carrying across the chamber. "In just 150 years of space travel, they have fought 3 wars. They refuse to limit their weapons development. They reject the mandatory pacification program that every other species accepts. They are aggressive, unpredictable, and dangerous." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Han-Woo watched it all with calm eyes. "Humanity's very nature makes them incompatible with peaceful galactic civilization," Ralph continued. "We have tried to guide them. We have offered them chances to change. They refuse. Therefore, we must protect ourselves by removing them from our society." More voices joined in support. A delegate from the Sur spoke about human military buildups. Another complained about humanity's unwillingness to share all their technology. A third mentioned how humans always question regulations instead of simply obeying them. Finally, Vorgith called on the human delegation. "Ambassador Kim, you may speak before the vote." Han-Woo descended to the central floor. His footsteps echoed in the brief silence. He turned slowly, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. "You call us dangerous," he began, his voice steady. "You say we are too aggressive, too unwilling to follow your rules. Let me be clear about something. You are right." Shocked silence filled the chamber. Even Minji stared at him in disbelief. "We are aggressive," Hyun-Woo continued. "We question authority. We refuse to be pacified. Do you know why? Because every species in this chamber has forgotten something essential. You have forgotten that the universe is dangerous. You have forgotten that survival requires strength." He gestured around the chamber. "You hide behind your regulations and your laws. You have created a society where nothing changes, where nothing is allowed to change. You call it peace. We call it stagnation. You demand we undergo genetic pacification. You want to alter our very nature to make us docile, obedient, harmless. We refuse. We will always refuse. Our aggression, our questioning nature, our unwillingness to submit, these are not flaws. They are what make us human." Ralph's scales rattled with anger. "This is exactly why you must be removed. You threaten the order we have built." Han-Woo turned to face the Kryn commander directly. "No, Commander. We threaten your comfort, your convenience, your false sense of safety. And apparently that is crime enough." He looked back at Vorgith. "Banish us if you must. But understand what you are doing. You are not sending us to our room like disobedient children. You are cutting us loose from your restrictions. You are freeing us from your bureaucracy. You think you are protecting yourselves from us, You are wrong. Enough, Vorga said. The time for speeches is over. We vote now? The voting crystals activated across the chamber. Each delegate made their choice, and the results appeared on the massive display screens. The numbers climbed steadily. Yes votes for banishment far outnumbered the no votes. Minji watched the count with growing horror. 200 votes for banishment. Then 250. 270. The final tally appeared. 287 in favor. 41 against. 15 abstentions. The resolution passes, Vorgith announced. Humanity is hereby expelled from galactic society. All human citizens, stations, and vessels must withdraw to a quarantine zone of 50 light-years radius around the Sol system. You have 90 standard days. Any human found beyond this boundary after the deadline will be detained or destroyed. Celebration erupted across the chamber. Delegates congratulated each other. Some species cheered openly. They had solved the human problem. They were safe now. Hyun-woo and Minji returned to their shuttle in silence. The small craft detached from the Congress station and began its journey back to Earth. Only when they were alone in the cabin did Minji finally speak. They did it. They actually did it. Her voice shook. 150 years of working to join galactic civilization. Building relationships. Proving ourselves. All gone in one vote. Yes, Hyun-woo said calmly. How can you be so calm? Minji demanded. We just lost everything. Did we? Hyun-woo moved to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Tell me, Minji, in the 15 years you have worked with alien species, how much have we truly gained from them? Knowledge, technology, access to the Jumpgate network, technology we could have developed ourselves. Given time and freedom to do so, Hyun-woo interrupted. Access to a transportation network that they control, that they can cut off whenever they choose. Knowledge that comes with strings attached, with regulations and limitations. He turned to face her. The galaxy did not embrace us. They tolerated us. They tried to change us, control us, make us like them. And when we refused, they cast us out. So what do we do now? A thin smile crossed Hyun-woo's face. Now? Now we do what humans have always done best. We survive. We adapt. We grow stronger. They think they are sending us to hide in our corner of space. They think we will wither without them. He looked back at the stars. They just made the worst mistake in their long, comfortable, stagnant history. They gave us exactly what we needed, freedom. They removed their regulations, their oversight, their constant pressure to change who we are. You sound almost happy about this. I am, Hyun-woo said. They think they are protecting themselves from humanity. They have no idea what they have just unleashed. In 90 days, we withdraw. We go silent. And then, Dr. Park, we show them what humans can really do when nobody is holding us back. The shuttle continued toward Earth, carrying the news of humanity's banishment. Behind them, the Galactic Congress celebrated their victory. They felt safe now, protected, secure. They would learn how wrong they were. The vote had passed. Humanity's exile had begun, and the countdown to the galaxy's reckoning had started. Admiral Jiwan Choi stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable, watching the evacuation fleet assemble. 200 ships hung in space around Colony Outpost Arcturus, the furthest human settlement from Earth. Civilian transports, cargo haulers, and military escorts all prepared for the long journey home. Status report, she said. Her executive officer checked the displays. All personnel accounted for, Admiral. Final equipment loading in progress. We will be ready to depart in 6 hours. Jiwan nodded. She was 53 years old and had spent 30 of those years in space. She had fought in 2 of the 3 wars that the galaxy held against humanity. She knew what aliens thought of her species. Now they had finally made their fear official on the planet below. Soman Kong supervised the shutdown of the colony's main habitat. She had lived here for 12 years, watching the settlement grow from a few prefab buildings to a thriving community of 8,000 people. Now she was sealing it all up, leaving it behind. Governor Kong, one of her assistants said. The last transport is boarding now. You should come. Soman took one final look at the building she had called home. Will we ever come back? The assistant had no answer. Nobody did. The galaxy had made its decision. Humanity had to leave. Across dozens of systems, the same scene repeated. Human colonies evacuated. Research stations went dark. Trading posts closed their doors. Every human presence beyond the 50 light-year boundary around Sol began the long withdrawal. The galaxy watched with satisfaction. News networks broadcast the retreating human ships. Commentators praised the peaceful resolution. Some species expressed sympathy for humanity's fate, but most simply felt relieved. The aggressive, questioning, dangerous humans were finally going away, but not all humans were leaving. In a secure facility beneath the surface of Earth's moon, Director Daesung Lee watched multiple screens showing operations across galactic space. He was a thin man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. As head of the Human Intelligence Bureau, he knew secrets that would terrify the Galactic Congress. Confirmed status of all deep cover operatives, he said. An analyst responded immediately. 3,412 agents confirmed in position, Director. Identity wipes complete. Cover stories holding? No compromises detected? Daesung allowed himself a small smile. For 50 years, humanity had been placing agents throughout galactic civilization. People who looked like aliens, who had undergone extensive surgery and training to pass as members of other species. People who had spent decades building careers, relationships, and trust. The galaxy thought all humans were leaving. They were wrong. Thousands remained, invisible and perfectly positioned. Activate protocol silence, Daesung ordered. All agents go dark. No contact with Earth unless absolutely critical. They are on their own now. On the Kryn homeworld, Yuna Song sat in her office in the Military Intelligence Division. She looked entirely Kryn. The surgery had been that good. She had lived as one of them for 18 years. She had married a Kryn officer, raised children who thought they were purebred Kryn, and earned the trust of her superiors. When the message came through her hidden receiver, she calmly erased it. Then she continued her work analyzing shipping routes and fleet movements, just as she did every day. Nothing had changed. Except now nobody was watching her. Nobody from Earth could give her orders or compromise her position. She was free to work. And she would, meanwhile. Admiral Jiwan's fleet began the journey home. But they did not simply run away. Every ship in the retreating human navy had orders. Scan everything. Map every asteroid belt, every nebula, every dead world within 100 light-years of the quarantine zone. Why are we cataloging all this? A young officer asked. The ship's science officer answered. Because we might need it someday. Resources, hiding places, strategic positions. If we are going to be locked in our corner of space, we should know everything about that corner. The withdrawal continued exactly on schedule. Human efficiency impressed even those aliens who disliked them. Every deadline was met. Every checkpoint was passed. The retreating fleets communicated their positions clearly and followed all protocols. On Earth, President Yoon Ji-han addressed the United Governments. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation. Tension filled the air. They have cast us out, Yoon-ji said, her voice carrying clearly through the room. They fear us. They do not trust us. They want us isolated and contained. Very well. We will give them exactly what they asked for. She paused, letting her words sink in. But isolation goes both ways. We will withdraw as ordered. We will not contact them. We will not ask for their help. We will not trade with them unless they come to us as equals. We have 90 days before the boundary closes. We will use that time to prepare. Every resource, every mind, every piece of technology we possess will be dedicated to one goal, making humanity so strong, so advanced, so capable that we never need the galaxy again. The representatives rose in applause. Fear had turned to anger. Anger was becoming determination. As the deadline approached, strange reports began reaching the Galactic Congress. human ships were disappearing. Not destroyed, just vanishing from sensors. Small groups would split off from the main evacuation fleets and head into empty space. Then their signals would go dark. Chancellor Vorgoth reviewed the reports with concern. "What are they doing?" "Establishing hidden bases, perhaps," an advisor suggested. "Or hiding resources outside the quarantine zone. Should we investigate?" "They still have 2 weeks before the deadline. Technically, they are not violating any terms." Vorgoth decided to wait. The humans would be gone soon enough. A few mysteries did not matter. The final human vessel crossed the quarantine boundary with 12 hours to spare. Admiral Jiwan herself commanded the ship, a frigate that had been conducting final sweeps of the border region. She stood on the bridge as her ship passed the invisible line that now marked humanity's cage. "We are inside the zone, Admiral," her navigator reported. "Very good. Set course for Earth and activate the communication blackout. From this moment, no transmissions beyond the boundary." "Confirmed, Admiral." Going silent. Across human space, every transmitter shut down. Every beacon went dark. Every communication laser powered off. Earth and all its colonies, stations, and ships simply stopped talking to the rest of the galaxy. The sudden silence startled alien monitoring stations. They had expected humans to complain, to argue, to make noise about their banishment. Instead, there was nothing. Just an empty void of radio silence where humanity used to be. High Commander Routh reviewed the reports with satisfaction. Good, they know their place now. Quiet and contained, just as they should be. But in the intelligence division where Unisong worked, analysts were puzzled. Why would they go completely silent? Even isolated species maintain some level of broadcasting. Una pretended to study the data while hiding her smile. She knew exactly why. Humanity was done playing by galactic rules. They were done asking for permission. They were done pretending to be something they were not. The withdrawal was complete. Every human had come home, or so the galaxy believed. The boundary was established. The quarantine was in effect, and behind that boundary, in the silence that made aliens nervous, humanity got to work. President Yunji Han made one final address to her people. It was broadcast throughout human space, but nowhere else. The galaxy would not hear these words. "We are alone now," she said. "They wanted us isolated. They wanted us contained. They wanted us helpless. They have given us the greatest gift possible, freedom from their oversight. Their regulations, their constant attempts to change us. We will use this time wisely. We will build. We will innovate. We will become everything they feared we might be. And when we emerge from this silence, they will learn a truth that humans have always known. You cannot cage what you cannot kill, and we are very hard to kill." The transmission ended. The silence continued. And in that silence, protected from alien eyes and alien interference, humanity began to transform. 20 years passed. The galaxy moved forward without humanity. New trade agreements were signed. Political alliances shifted. Small conflicts erupted and were resolved through the Galactic Congress. Life continued as it had. For thousands of years before humans arrived in space, the quarantine boundary around Sol remained active. Automated defense satellites destroyed any probe that attempted to cross. The few ships that tested the barrier were obliterated so quickly that they barely had time to send distress signals. After the first dozen incidents, everyone stopped trying. Behind that wall of silence, humanity might as well have ceased to exist. Counselor Thess floated in her private office, reviewing economic data. Her species had opposed humanity's banishment, though the vote had been hopeless. Now, 2 decades later, she was beginning to see patterns that disturbed her. Trade routes that humans once protected had become dangerous. Pirates operated freely in sectors where human patrol ships used to maintain order. The Galactic Congress deployed its own peacekeeping forces, but they were less effective, less aggressive, less willing to actually fight. Medical research had slowed dramatically. Thess found reports showing that much of the galaxy's pharmaceutical advancement over the past century had been built on human biochemical data. Humans share DNA structures with several major species families, making them ideal subjects for drug testing. Without access to human research subjects or human scientists, progress had nearly stopped. She brought her concerns to the Congress. But Chancellor Vorgoth dismissed them. "These are merely adjustment issues," the crystalline being said. "We functioned for millions of years before humanity appeared. We will function fine without them." But the problems continued to grow. A mining corporation reported strange incidents at an asteroid belt 300 light-years from Solfar outside the quarantine zone. Workers arrived at their drilling sites to find equipment sabotaged. The damage was precise, professional, and used techniques that matched human engineering training. But no humans had been seen in the area for 20 years. Then the disappearances began. A Kryn military convoy vanished while conducting exercises near the quarantine boundary. 15 ships with 3,000 personnel simply stopped reporting. Search parties found nothing. No wreckage, no bodies, no distress signals. Just empty space where a fleet used to be. High Commander Ralph, now older but no less aggressive, demanded answers. His intelligence division had none to give. Unisong sat in a conference room with other Kryn analysts, all of them reviewing data on the missing convoy. She had aged well for a human pretending to be. Kryn, the medical technology Earth had provided before her deep cover assignment, kept her looking appropriately alien. "There's no logical explanation," one analyst said. "Ships do not simply vanish. Could it be related to the humans?" Another asked. "The convoy was near their boundary." "Impossible," a senior officer replied. "We have sensors monitoring the boundary constantly. Nothing has crossed it in either direction for 2 decades. Yuna remained silent, carefully showing the same confusion as her colleagues. She knew exactly what had happened to that convoy, but that knowledge would stay locked in her mind. More incidents followed. A civilian transport was attacked by pirates near the Andromeda corridor. The pirates were later found dead, floating in their disabled ships. The weapons that killed them used technology that matched no known galactic signature. The transport's crew reported that their attackers had been dealt with by unseen defenders who never showed themselves across the galaxy. In dozens of different systems, human agents like Yuna worked their quiet magic. They fed false intelligence to military planners. They adjusted trade regulations to create bottlenecks. They subtly sabotaged projects in ways that looked like normal failures. They gathered information, built networks, and waited. The galaxy did not notice the pattern. But it noticed the growing instability. Chancellor Vorgoth called an emergency session of the Inner Council. Representatives from the 20 most powerful species gathered to discuss the increasing chaos. "Piracy is up 40%, Trade Minister Bolvin reported. "Medical research efficiency is down 60%. We have had 18 unexplained incidents in the past standard year alone. Something is happening and we do not understand what. Could humanity be behind this?" Someone asked. "How?" Ralph demanded. "They are sealed behind their boundary. We would detect any movement in or out." "Then it is coincidence," Vorgoth declared. "Random chaos. The universe is large and unpredictable." But some were not convinced. Counselor Thess hired private investigators to look into the patterns. What they found made her blood run cold. In system after system, key personnel had been replaced over the past 30 to 40 years. Nothing obvious, just normal career turnover. But when cross-referenced, there was a pattern. People with access to important information or critical infrastructure had been substituted by individuals whose backgrounds, while appearing legitimate, could not be fully verified. Either the galaxy had experienced an unprecedented wave of identity fraud, or something else was happening. Thess brought her findings to Vorgoth privately. "Chancellor, I believe humanity left agents among us. People we think are our own species but are actually human." "Impossible. Our medical scans would detect such deception, would they? We know humans were advanced in biological technology. What if they found ways to fool our sensors?" Vorgoth's crystalline structure refracted light nervously. "Even if true, how many could there be? A dozen? 2 dozen? I fear it may be thousands. The Chancellor said nothing for a long moment. If you're right, then we have been compromised for decades. We would have no way to know who to trust. It would mean... He trailed off, unable to complete the thought. It would mean we never contained humanity at all, Fess finished quietly. We just made them invisible. High Commander Ralph, meanwhile, grew tired of mysteries. He demanded permission to send a military force to the quarantine boundary. Not to cross it, but to demand communication. To force the humans to explain themselves, the Congress debated for weeks before finally agreeing. A fleet of 50 warships assembled, a significant force by galactic standards, but not large enough to seem aggressive. Just intimidating enough to get answers. Ralph himself commanded the fleet from his flagship. As they approached the boundary, he broadcast on all frequencies. Attention Earth, this is High Commander Ralph of the Kryn Empire. Speaking for the Galactic Congress, we demand communication. Recent incidents suggest possible human involvement in galactic affairs. You will respond and explain yourselves. Silence. The void offered no reply. Ralph's scales flushed with anger. 20 years of silence. It ends now? Respond, or we will consider your silence an admission of guilt. One of the automated defense satellites activated. For the first time in 2 decades, something from human space sent a message. The voice was artificial, emotionless, speaking perfect galactic standard. You voted for our banishment. These are our borders. You are not welcome. Retreat or be destroyed. Ralph laughed. Destroyed? By automated satellites? I think not. Fleet, advance to the boundary. Let us see what 37 ships exploded simultaneously. The weapons came from everywhere and nowhere. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, and stranger things that Ralph could not identify tore through shields and armor like they were paper. His own flagship shuddered as something massive hit its hull. Retreat! He screamed. All ships retreat! The 13 surviving vessels fled at maximum speed. The weapons stopped as soon as they crossed back over the boundary. The message was clear: stay out. Ralph's flagship limped back to Kryn Homeport with a massive hole in its side. The fleet had lost 37 ships and over 4,000 personnel in 42 seconds. The galaxy watched the recordings in horror. Whatever humanity had been doing for 20 years, it was not cowering in fear. The weapons they had displayed were decades beyond anything the galaxy possessed. And those were just automated defenses. What did the actual human fleet look like now? Chancellor Vorgoth called another emergency session. This time, fear filled the chamber instead of satisfaction. We need to reconsider the human situation, Councillor Thess said. Whatever they have become in isolation, they are clearly far more capable than we anticipated. They attacked a peaceful fleet. Ralph shouted, his voice still shaking with rage and pain. You approached their border with 50 warships and demanded they submit to questioning, Thess responded coldly. What did you expect? The chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded military retaliation. Others wanted to attempt diplomacy. Still, others suggested simply leaving humanity alone and hoping they would stay isolated. In the intelligence division where Unisong worked, analysts scrambled to understand what had happened. The technology displayed by those satellites was incredible. How had humanity advanced so far so quickly? Una, of course, knew the answer. When you remove all restrictions, all oversight, all bureaucratic obstacles, and give brilliant people freedom to work, they do amazing things. The galaxy had locked humanity in a room and told them they could not come out. So humanity had used that time to become unstoppable. The silence had ended. The galaxy had received its message. And the message was terrifying. Humanity was not hiding. They were not afraid. They were not weak. They were waiting. And they were ready. The emergency session of the Galactic Congress was broadcast across every inhabited world. Billions of beings watched as their leaders gathered to address the human situation. Fear had replaced the satisfaction of 20 years ago. The species that once congratulated themselves for banishing humanity now wondered what monster they had created. Chancellor Vorgoth called the session to order. though his crystalline form flickered with obvious stress. We are here to discuss the recent incident at the Sol quarantine boundary and determine our next course of action regarding humanity. Before anyone could speak, every screen in the chamber went dark. Then they flickered back to life, showing a single image. A human face. Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim looked older now, his hair gray at the temples, lines around his eyes. But those eyes were as sharp and calculating as ever. He sat at a simple desk with the blue curve of Earth visible through a window behind him. "How?" Vorgith began. "Be quiet and listen," Hyun-woo said simply. His voice carried absolute authority. "You called this session to discuss humanity. We decided you should include us in the conversation. The fact that humans could hack into the most secure communication system in the galaxy sent a wave of shock through the chamber. That was supposed to be impossible." Next to Hyun-woo, another figure appeared. General Hana Shin wore a crisp military uniform marked with insignia the galaxy did not recognize. She was younger than the ambassador, perhaps 40, with cold eyes that had seen combat and planned victories. 20 years ago you banished us," Hyun-woo continued. "You voted to isolate us, to contain us, to protect yourselves from humanity's dangerous nature. Today, we are here to inform you of the results of that decision." High Commander Routh rose from his platform, scales still showing damage from the recent attack. "You have no authority here. You are exiled. You attacked our ships?" "We defended our borders," General Hannah said, her voice carrying an edge like a knife. "You approached with 50 warships and demanded we submit to questioning. What did you think would happen? Did you expect us to roll over because you threatened us? Those were peaceful vessels. 50 armed warships constitute a battle fleet by galactic standards," Hana interrupted. "Do not insult our intelligence by calling them peaceful. We responded appropriately to a military threat at our border." Han-woo raised a hand for silence. "We are not here to debate the past. We are here to explain the present and future. The galaxy needs to understand the new reality." He stood, and the camera pulled back to show him fully. 20 years ago, you told us we were too dangerous, too aggressive, too unwilling to follow your rules. You were correct. So we have decided to make our own rules. These are non-negotiable." The screen split, showing both Hyun-woo and a list of text in every major galactic language. Rule 1. The Sol Quarantine Zone is sovereign human territory. The boundary extends 50 light-years from our sun in all directions. Any vessel, probe, or transmission that crosses our border without explicit permission will be destroyed. No warnings. No exceptions. We will defend our borders with overwhelming force. You cannot simply claim space as your own," a delegate shouted. "You gave us that space 20 years ago," Hyun-woo replied calmly. "You quarantined us there. We accept your decision and make it permanent. This is our territory now." Rule 2, he continued. All existing human-designed technology, medical research, and scientific data previously shared with the galactic community is hereby revoked. Any patents, licenses, or rights to use human intellectual property are cancelled immediately. Trade Minister Bolvin stood urgently. "That will cripple dozens of industries. Medical care alone should have been developed independently," Hyun-woo said. "You have relied on human innovation for too long. Now you will learn to innovate yourselves. Or you can negotiate with us as equals to license our technology. But the days of taking our work and giving nothing in return are over." Rule 3. Any act of aggression against human interests, visible or covert, will be met with immediate and disproportionate retaliation. We are no longer bound by your laws of war, your rules of engagement, or your codes of conduct. You cast us out of your civilization. We accept. But that means we play by our rules now, not yours. Counselor Thess felt cold understanding wash over her. She had been right. Humanity had left agents among them. And now those agents operated without any oversight or restriction. Rule 4, Hyun-woo said, his voice growing harder. We do not recognize the authority of the Galactic Congress over humanity. You have no jurisdiction in our space. You have no right to judge our actions. You have no power over us. We are not members of your civilization. We will never be members again. We are independent, sovereign, and free. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in outrage, fear, and confusion. How dare humans dictate terms to them? Who did they think they were? General Hanna stepped forward. Perhaps you wonder how we dare make such demands. Allow me to clarify. The screens changed to show technological displays. Starship designs that made galactic engineers weep with envy. Weapon systems that defied known physics. Medical technology that could regrow entire organs in hours. Power generation systems 10 times more efficient than anything in galactic use. Dr. Minji Park appeared on screen next to the general. The former idealist had become something harder, more focused. She wore a white lab coat marked with scientific credentials. While you congratulated yourselves for removing us, Minji said, we were working. You forced us into isolation with nothing but our own ingenuity. We had no one to rely on but ourselves. No regulations to slow us down. No bureaucracy to strangle innovation. No oversight committees to question every experiment. She gestured to the displays. These are just samples. We have advanced more in 20 years of freedom than we did in a century under your restrictions. Your mandatory pacification programs would have made us docile. Your safety regulations would have made us slow. Your constant oversight would have made us timid. You wanted us harmless, she continued, and now anger showed in her voice. You tried to change our very nature because you were afraid of what we might become. And when we refused to submit, you cast us out. So we became exactly what you feared. We became unstoppable. High Commander Ralph had heard enough. His rage overwhelmed his caution. The Kryn Empire will not accept this. We will not be threatened by exiled species. I hereby declare, choose your next words carefully, General Hanna said quietly. The way she spoke made it clear this was not a warning but a promise. Ralph's scales flushed deep red. I declare that the Kryn Empire will mobilize its full military might. We will breach your pathetic quarantine and destroy Earth once and for all. You will learn what happens when you threaten true galactic powers. Silence fell over the chamber. Everyone stared at Ralph in shock. He had just declared war on humanity. Hyun-woo smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. We were hoping someone would say that, he said softly. General Shin, please prepare the demonstration. With pleasure, Ambassador, Hanna replied. The screens changed to show a fleet assembling. Thousands of Kryn warships gathering in their home system. The largest military mobilization in galactic history. Ralph was not making idle threats. He intended to crush humanity with overwhelming force. You see? Ralph shouted triumphantly. 3,000 ships. The full might of the Kryn Empire. Your tricks and technology mean nothing against such numbers. Numbers are not everything, Hanna said. Sometimes quality matters more than quantity. Sometimes strategy beats strength. And sometimes, Commander, you walk into a trap because your arrogance blinds you to danger. What trap? We are in our own home system. Exactly, Hanna said. And we have been there for decades. Yuna Song stood from her desk in the Kryn Intelligence Division. Around her, alarms began blaring. Security systems were failing. Defense grids were going offline. Communication networks were collapsing. She walked calmly through the chaos, heading for an exit. Behind her, other agents revealed themselves, rising from their positions across the Kryn government and military. The infiltration had been complete, perfect, invisible. Until now, on the screens in the Galactic Congress, Kryn officials watched in horror as their entire military infrastructure shut down. Not from external attack. From within. Systems they trusted turned against them. Weapons pointed at their own ships. The impenetrable home defense grid simply stopped working, and in orbit around the Kryn home world, cloaked human ships decloaked. Just a dozen vessels, but they were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek, deadly, humming with barely contained power. We could destroy you, General Hanna said. Every military installation, every defensive position. Every ship in your precious fleet? We have the weapons. We have the access. We have your entire system compromised. She paused, letting the words sink in. But we will not. This is not war. This is a lesson. You threatened us. You declared you would destroy our home. And in response, we showed you how utterly unprepared you are to fight us. Ralph stared at the screens showing his disabled defenses, his compromised systems, his helpless fleet. His entire career, his entire military doctrine had just been proven obsolete. This is what happens when you threaten humanity, Hyun-woo said. We have shown restraint today. The next species that attacks us will not see such mercy. We will respond with total annihilation. The screens went dark for a moment, then showed one final image, President Jihan, older now but still radiating authority. 20 years ago. You voted to banish Earth because you feared what we might become, she said. You were right to fear us, but wrong about why. We are not monsters. We are survivors. We are builders. We are everything you could have been if you had not become soft and complacent. The quarantine stands now by our choice. Any species that wishes to trade with us, work with us, or establish diplomatic relations may do so. But you will deal with us as equals. Not as inferiors to be managed, not as children to be guided. As equals, we do not want your territory. We do not want to rule you. We just want you to leave us alone. And if you cannot do that, you will learn the same lesson the Kryn learned today. The transmission ended. The screens returned to normal. And the Galactic Congress sat in stunned silence, finally understanding what they had done. They had not banished humanity. They had unleashed them. The Kryn home system trembled with military might. 3,000 warships filled the space around their planet, each one a monument to their empire's power. High Commander Ralph stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his fleet assemble. The humiliation of the Congress demonstration had turned to rage. He would show humanity that numbers still mattered. That old power still meant something. All ships report ready, Commander, his tactical officer said. Ralph nodded. Then we proceed. Calculate jump coordinates for the sole quarantine boundary. We will punch through their defenses and destroy Earth itself. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who mock the Kryn Empire. Across the galaxy, billions watched. The Congress had tried to stop this madness, but Ralph had the support of his government. Kryn pride demanded satisfaction. Many species secretly hoped the Kryn would succeed. Humanity had become too frightening. Better to destroy them now before they became unstoppable. Chancellor Vorgeth broadcast one final plea. Commander Ralph, I beg you to reconsider. The humans have shown capabilities we do not fully understand. This could be a disaster. The only disaster will be Earth's, Ralph replied. No species, no matter how advanced, can withstand 3,000 warships. We end this threat today. In the Kryn Intelligence Division, Unisong's former colleagues scrambled to restore their compromised systems. They had managed to bring most functions back online, though they still did not understand how the infiltration had been so complete. They did not know that Una and hundreds of other human agents had spent decades building backdoors into every critical system. Those backdoors were waiting now, quiet, patient, ready on Earth. In the command center beneath the lunar surface, General Hana Shin watched the Kryn fleet prepare. Admiral Jiwon Choi stood beside her, reviewing tactical displays. They actually think they can win, Jiwon said quietly. After everything we showed them, they still think numbers will save them. Pride is a powerful force, Hana replied. It makes people stupid. We can use that. The fleet is ready, General. 200 ships against their 3,000. The odds look terrible to anyone watching. Hannah smiled. Good, let them think we are desperate. It will make the lesson more effective. The Kryn fleet jumped to the quarantine boundary in perfect formation. 3,000 ships arrived simultaneously, a testament to their coordination and discipline. They were older designs, slower than human ships, but they were solid and reliable, traditional, proven. Ralph broadcast on all frequencies. Humans, we have come to end your threat. Surrender now, and we will allow you to live as prisoners. Resist, and we will destroy you completely. From the lunar shipyards, massive doors opened. Doors that had not been visible before, hidden by technology that bent light around them. Admiral Jiwan Choi led the human fleet out into the open, 200 ships against 3,000. The numbers were absurd, but the human ships were beautiful in a way that made military engineers weep. They moved like living things, flowing through space with impossible grace. Their hulls were smooth and dark, absorbing sensor scans rather than reflecting them, and they radiated power, not the crude, obvious power of old fusion drives, but something cleaner and far more dangerous. Unknown energy signatures, a Kryn sensor operator reported. Commander, these readings do not match anything in our database. Ralph stared at the human fleet. They were badly outnumbered. They had to know they could not win a conventional engagement. They are bluffing. All ships prepare to engage. Target their weapon systems first. I want them captured if possible. General Hannah's voice cut through every speaker in the Kryn fleet. You came here to destroy us, Commander. You brought your entire fleet because you wanted to be certain. But you did not bring enough. Not enough? Ralph laughed. We outnumber you 15-1. Numbers, Hannah said softly, are not everything. Allow me to demonstrate. The human fleet did not attack. They simply waited. Ralph grew impatient. Fire! All ships open fire! 3,000 Kryn warships unleashed everything they had. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, missiles, and plasma torpedoes filled the space between the fleets. It was an overwhelming barrage that should have vaporized any target. The human ships did not even try to dodge. They simply activated their shields, and every single shot stopped. The energy beams dissipated against barriers that bent physics itself. Kinetic projectiles slowed to a stop and fell harmlessly away. Missiles detonated uselessly against fields that absorbed their explosions. Not one human ship took damage. Impossible, Ralph whispered. Your technology is obsolete, Hannah said. While you relied on what you knew, what had always worked, we rebuilt everything from first principles. We do not use the same physics you do. We found better ways. Admiral Jiwan gave a single order. Disable them. The human fleet moved. Not in formation like the Kryn, but as a single unified organism. Ships that had been motionless suddenly accelerated to speeds the Kryn sensors could barely track. They flowed through the enemy fleet like water through rocks. What followed was not a battle. It was a masterclass in technological superiority. Human ships did not destroy Kryn vessels. They disabled them. Precision weapons took out engines, leaving ships adrift but intact. Shield generators were shut down by energy pulses that the Kryn did not know could exist. Communication systems went dark as human electronic warfare specialists took control of entire networks. In 15 minutes, half the Kryn fleet was disabled and helpless. Retreat! Ralph screamed. All ships retreat! But before the order could be executed, something else happened. Every system in Kryn home space went dark. Not from external attack from within, Unisong, now safely away from the intelligence division, activated the final protocols. Every backdoor opened simultaneously. Every virus activated. Every piece of infiltration code that human agents had placed over decades executed at once. The Kryn homeworld defense grid shut down. Military command networks collapsed. Power stations went into safe mode. Even civilian infrastructure stuttered and failed. The mightiest military empire in the galaxy was brought to its knees without a single shot fired at their homeworld. High Commander Ralph watched his screens go dark one by one. His ships were disabled. His homeworld was compromised. His entire military apparatus had been infiltrated so completely that humans could shut it down at will. He had lost. Not just the battle, everything. We surrender, he said quietly. Hannah's voice was almost gentle. We know, we have been waiting for you to realize it. The human fleet stopped its attack immediately. Disabled Kryn ships were left adrift, but intact. Medical ships, also human, appeared from nowhere to assist vessels with damaged life support. then president. Yun Han's face appeared on every screen in the Kryn system. In fact, it appeared on screens across the entire galaxy. Humanity was broadcasting to every inhabited world simultaneously, another feat that should have been impossible. Citizens of the galaxy, Yunji began. You have just witnessed what happens when someone threatens humanity. The Kryn Empire brought 3,000 warships to destroy us. We defeated them in minutes without destroying a single ship. We could have annihilated their entire fleet and their homeworld. We chose not to. She paused, letting that sink in. This is not mercy. This is a message. We are not your enemies. We do not want war. We do not want conquest. We simply want to be left alone. 20 years ago, you voted to banish us because you feared what we might become. You were right to fear us. We are dangerous. We are aggressive. We question everything and refuse to be controlled. These traits make us terrible subjects but excellent survivors. You tried to exile us to save yourselves. Instead, you freed us. You removed your regulations, your oversight, your constant pressure to change who we are. And we used that freedom to become everything we were meant to be. The screens showed images of human cities, orbital habitats, research stations, and industrial complexes. Technology that made galactic science look primitive. Art that took alien breath away. Achievements that would have been impossible under the restrictions of galactic society. The vote to banish Earth was the best thing you ever did for us, Yunji continued. You thought you were protecting yourselves. You were actually holding us back. And when you finally let go, we soared. These are our terms for the future. The quarantine remains by our choice. We will trade with species that treat us as equals. We will share knowledge with those who respect our sovereignty. We will defend ourselves with overwhelming force against any threat. And we will continue to grow, to advance, to push the boundaries of what is possible. You cannot stop us. You cannot control us. You cannot contain us. The only choice you have is whether to work with us or stay out of our way. She leaned forward, her expression hard. Choose wisely. Because we have been patient with you today, we showed restraint. We demonstrated our capabilities without using them fully. But if you threaten us again, if you try to destroy us, if you force our hand, we will not be so gentle. The transmission ended. The galaxy sat in stunned silence. In the Galactic Congress chambers. Delegates looked at each other with new understanding. Some felt fear. Some felt respect. Some felt shame for what they had done 20 years ago. Councillor Thess rose to speak. I propose we formally recognize human sovereignty and begin negotiations for a new relationship based on mutual respect. The vote was unanimous. High Commander Ralph, stripped of his command and facing political ruin, watched from his disabled flagship as human repair ships approached. They could have left his fleet to die in space. Instead, they were helping. Showing that their strength came with honor, he had learned his lesson. The galaxy had learned its lesson. 50 years later, Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim, now ancient and frail, sat in a cafe on Luna. The view of Earth never got old. Beside him, Dr. Minji Park reviewed reports on her tablet. She was ambassador to the Galactic Council now, representing humanity's interests in a galaxy that had finally learned to respect them. Do you think we did the right thing? Minji asked. All the secrecy, the infiltration, the demonstration of force. Han-woo considered the question carefully. They gave us a gift when they banished us. They gave us freedom. We used that freedom to become something greater than they could imagine. Could we have done it differently? Perhaps. But would the result have been the same? They fear us now. Fear breeds respect. Respect allows cooperation. And cooperation. He gestured to the ships in orbit. Some human and some alien, working together on a joint research project. Cooperation gives us the chance to build something better. A human colony ship launched from lunar orbit, heading toward a distant star. The colony had been invited by an alien species that wanted human expertise and protection. Trade agreements flourished. Technology exchange programs thrived. The galaxy had not just accepted humanity, it had come to value them. We were banished, Hyanwu said softly. Exiled, cast out like criminals. And it was the best thing that ever happened to us. Minji smiled. Because they set us free? Because they set us free, he agreed. The vote to banish Earth had passed with celebration and relief. The galaxy thought it had solved the human problem. Instead, it had created something unprecedented. A species that refused to be contained. A people that turned isolation into strength. A civilization that proved limits were only boundaries waiting to be broken. Humanity had been cast out. And in that exile, they had found their true potential. The galaxy had voted for Earth's banishment. Earth had voted to transcend, and the universe would never be the same.